Hello, it's so nice to be here. I am very honored to be asked back. I happen to come with McGraw-Hill. I do work with them only because I sought them out about 5 years ago when I got very frustrated with other support, meaning publisher support, whatever support, that was not moving forward with me. And I didn't have a rep. I just went looking. And I found McGraw-Hill, and we have grown together, which is wonderful to say. I'm not with a stagnant group, that they are moving with me. And when I was asked to come here, the rep said, okay, you need to use your iPad. And I went, sure I do. Because everybody says they want an iPad, but reality, they don't know what that means. I mean, my school says, we want you to teach with iPad. But do you know I cannot connect wirelessly? Now let's think about that. What's the difference then of using an iPad when I can walk around and do what I do best versus standing up there and sage on the stage? Nothing. Oh, excuse me. What happened? Somebody stole my thing. Thank you. You might have to keep an eye on me. Thank you. Okay, thank you. All right. So I was super excited when I got here and could really use my iPad and to show you some ideas, the earlier group, some ideas, and they liked what I did, and they said, come back and talk to our big group. I also want to assure you that my specialty, while I have been teaching for 20 years in the sciences, my specialty is integrated STEM education. And that means my specialty is blending. Teaching the content and practice of all STEM disciplines in addition to other disciplines. Teaching the content and practice together for a meaningful and significant learning experience for the students. If you want to know more about that STEM definition, because I don't think Tennessee shares that definition with me, please come talk with me later, because that's what my PhD is in, integrative STEM education. Okay? I specifically do research on meaningful ways to present content in the classroom. Okay? That's my area of expertise at this point, and that's why I'm here in front of you. So here's one particular, oh goodness, it keeps switching. Sorry, that's me. Here's one way I'd like to get to know you before we start. Do you do this with your students? Do you get to know them so that you can tailor your instruction to them? Here's a great, super way to do that first day and to continue getting to know them personally. I prefer poll everywhere as my polling option. I'm going to show you why later on. There's a particular reason that I prefer this. I also have class sizes at this point in my career of no more than 50. Well, actually 48 tops. Usually by withdrawal time, I'm under 40 is my number. And so I can access this free. I don't have to have a site license or anything like that. If I wanted an instructor, if I wanted to download reports and such like from this, I could do an instructor, I think it's some nominal fee, but I haven't even done that. So go ahead and let me find out about my room here. I postulated, because I'm a science person, I'm always postulating, I postulated that I would have a bunch of squiggles in this room. That's what I thought. And I can see that probably not all of you are participating. Oh, excuse me. So what you need to do is, there's your code. If you're a square, you need to text the code 339703 to the response number up there, or you can submit responses right on your iPad. Just go find me. You see STEM Prof. That's me. Okay? Yeah, look at the squiggles. What did I tell you? Do you know why? Squiggly lines. Those people just are very adaptive. They have fun in life. They're motivated by deadlines. In other words, procrastinators. Yeah, do you need to change it? As we get older, we usually have more than one shape. Squares are list makers. A square student, if you change their seat in a test, it could drop them by 2 letter grades. Triangles, that's me. They're the ones who are in charge, whether they actually are or not. Do you know those kind of people? That's me. How about the circles? The circles are the hardest worker, most loyal person you would ever have, but the circle in the midterm is going to be the one who starts the riot against the teacher. Do you know why? Because they overcommit themselves, and by midterm they're going, ah, it's your fault. Don't you know I have a life? That gives you a rundown. If you want to know more about that, you can Google shapes. There's a whole bunch of them. Okay? Now we're going to come back to this data. So please look at the data. And I'm going to bring you back there in just a moment. All right, is everybody good if I move on? So let me move on to my presentation for you today. I don't do PowerPoint. In fact, I completely flip my classrooms now. And actually in higher ed, we say invert. We don't say flip. Did you know that in the literature? Okay. So let me go to Haiku Deck. Have you seen Haiku Deck? This is one of my favorites only because it's so streamlined and easy to use. Okay? Students use it because, and it's easy as picking it up and sharing. It's going to make a liar out of me. Okay? So let me show you how to invert and optimize your classroom for significant learning to go on. Is that what you want? Of course, it's what we all want. We don't want knowledge dump. We want learning that changes the fabric of our students' being. So what do we call it? Do we say invert? Do we say flip? I just say good teaching, honestly. But like I just said, if you're talking K-12, they call it flip. If you're talking higher ed, you're going to hear invert. They mean the same thing. So don't let that trip you up if you're reading in the literature about this. Okay? I love that picture. Isn't that meaningful? Have you ever heard of petakucha? Petakucha is a style that I'm utilizing here where it's mostly pictures and very little words. Okay, so what are the characteristics of my flipped classroom? They have videos. I make them out of Camtasia. Now the reason I do that is because I have an avatar that is animated that is me. Have you tried that yet? If you'd like to try that, go to meez, meez.com. You can create a free animatable avatar, and you can take clips of it with Jing, J-I-N-G, okay, and splice it in. The students come out with it the first time and they go, oh my gosh, what is this? And then by the second time they go, hey, you changed your hair. And it's kind of cool. So Camtasia, I don't know if you use that. I use Camtasia, but I also use Mac products. So Mac Movie Maker, in some ways I find easier, but I like to say both because, you know, you have all different kind of people here. So Camtasia and Mac Movie Maker are both awesome. Okay, so I have videos to deliver my content. Okay? I also have a classroom that is highly interactive, both out of class and in class. So this is a key point, and you won't read it in the literature very much. But my research, which hopefully will be published within a year, this is very obvious. Research tells us that for the higher ed student, the most meaningful time for them is not in the classroom. The most meaningful learning time is when they leave us. So let me ask you, how are you creating your learning experiences that are in the classroom that actually extend out? Are you doing that? I'm doing it, and let me show you how in just a moment, okay? So that's what I mean by interactive. Wiki-based. You heard me yesterday talking, hopefully if you were here for the dinner kind of, or what was that? Reception. Let me encourage you to get out of your discussion board box. Wikis are better for collaboration. Discussion board is not the best for collaboration. In addition, research is very clear. Wikis speak to the female mind. Discussion boards speak to the male mind. So if you teach a lot of women, are you teaching to them or are you just teaching? Question. So wikis are very, very central to what I do. Okay. Also, my assessments. When you read the literature about flipped or inverted classrooms, they'll say, oh, well, we gave them tests and they did better on the test. But nobody tells you what the test is, right? Okay, so that's a problem. Your test needs to be transparently testing across Bloom. Are you doing that? Or is it just a knowledge thing? You know, where do you want your students to perform? I am crafting my tests deliberately so I can see them across Bloom, so that you can really evaluate, are your students working up here or are they working down here? Because if you want them working down here, don't bother to flip. But if you want them working up here, this is a must. Because you want them synthesizing and they need your help to do it. That's what they need your help for. They don't need your help to get content. They have the internet for that. Okay? All right. Also, authentically, I specifically measure self-efficacy. Okay? Let me encourage you to investigate that. Because there are clear ties in the literature of self-efficacy to academic achievement. And what you'll find, especially for STEM, I don't know if I'm talking to any STEM instructors here. Yeah. Why do we lose women? Why do we lose underrepresented minorities? Because they have low self-efficacy. That's why. Guess where else most of our STEM students are being lost from? The community college. Look at the big finger points right at me, because that's me. But they're being lost from the community college, nationwide. Okay, notice self-evaluative. You've got to gather data, and you've got to gather it for yourself, because that's the only way to know if your flipped classroom is actually working. Okay? I poll my students constantly, twice during the semester, beginning, end. I want to find out what they're thinking. And I use, a lot of tools from McGraw-Hill. They give me a lot of reports that I use constantly to evaluate how I'm moving through the content. Okay? So that's my classroom. That's it. If you are lacking any of those pieces, you will not be as effective in a flip. Okay? It's not just about taking lecture out. It really isn't. Okay, so let's move on. Focusing for the course, you've got to make it standards-based. Okay, go ahead, collective groan. Oh. But it's true. Good pedagogy is good pedagogy across disciplines, and good pedagogy is standards-based. Okay? You got to know where you're going to be able to get there. And how do you know where you're going? By the standards. Course goals have got to align with what you're doing in that classroom, or you're going to send a mixed message. And that's not good. Okay? So me particularly for my anatomy, the reason I have the picture is this is HAPS, Human Anatomy and Physiology Society. That's what I use. For biology, I use the core standards that my school has adopted, which are based on, oh my goodness, the name just flew out of my head, vision and change, for any biology people out there. Okay? What if you teach engineering and there's no standards? Liar, there are standards, national, online. Just because your institution isn't into it, Sachs is. I'm a Sachs school too. I know. Okay? This is not the publisher's job. Now this is the scary part. Publishers are not pedagogists. Okay? So they're going to give you recommendations, but they are not the pedagogy people. That's you. And a lot of people are going, well, that's not how I'm trained. But guess what? That's how you're working. So if you need help with that, you've got to go to your dean. There are people who are out there for this purpose, and it's not the publisher. Okay. So standards-based. How do I deliver my content other than just those wacky videos? Well, again, I look for sources of content. One specific one that I use is Anatomy and Physiology Revealed. If you're a bio person, this should speak to you. I use it across the disciplines, and this is fabulous. I mean, it's a good app that you can get, and you can get all kinds of great dissection pictures and whatnot, but is it really about that? No, it's about how I use it. So how do I use it? Well, I use Poll Everywhere sometimes. I get them to pull it up in class, and then let me show you. Hold on, let me go to Poll Everywhere. Look how easy that is when you're walking around with your iPad. Okay. Well, if my Wi-Fi, did it kick me out? No. Check it out. Not only can you do a multiple choice answer like I already showed you, but this is not done in the other polling things. Oh, it's a foot. It's the wrong one, sorry. What is that? Let me get my poll. This is the coolest. Look at this. Now you just tap on it. If you're responding on an iPad, you can just tap on your region. No names. You're not giving them that word bank thing. You're making them identify. It's a whole nother thing, which is awesome. I love this. And so it will chart for you where the people think this bone is, right? And this is a follow-up to a case study that I would give them that you can find on the APR. So it's a matter of how you can interact with your students in that classroom. So Poll Everywhere, I think, don't quote me on this, but I think this is the only polling that will let you do that. That's the free polling. I don't remember what it is you guys use, but I'm encouraging you, especially if you are an identification kind of discipline. This is awesome. This is awesome. Okay. Let me go back to my haiku deck. It's probably going to make me upload it again. Okay, so Poll Everywhere is definitely a jump-off point for me. It can be a place where you can synthesize. I will show you that at the end. Remember that data we did when we first walked in. Okay, here's another thing. I like to take pictures off that content delivery device, and then I like for the students to make videos in response and then push them to the screen if I can. In my classroom, I can't get them all to do that. I bring in my own little Apple TV device and sneak it in because it's not supposed to be there. Or I get them to bring their iPad up and we click it and they do their thing. But EduCreations, have you heard from this one? Do you know about this one? A lot of nods. Can I just see if anybody doesn't know? One person, a couple people. Those of you nodding, I'm going to beg your indulgence for just a moment. EduCreations is a device that you can actually go in and take a picture of upload a picture, and then draw right there and record and then upload. My students actually will get their iPads out. They'll take pictures of dissection, and then they'll start, I don't agree, what's this part? And they'll draw it all up there, and they'll upload it onto Blackboard. I don't use D2L, I use Blackboard. Same thing. Study, interaction. It's perfect. Educreations. Okay, case studies are integral for me. Now why? 2 reasons. Number 1, they're interactive. Number 2, they can never be finished in class. So what do I get them to do? Oh, whoops, you ran out of time? Oh, you'll have to finish that outside of class. Whoops, sorry about that. Where do you think they're going to do it? On the wiki. Why? Why on the wiki? Because the wiki is the collaborative document. A wiki is not mine, and it's not yours, and it's not yours, it's ours. And that's why women like it. And that's where they finish all of their case studies. Now, bad news. D2L, I think, does not have a wiki option. Can I give you another option? If you use McGraw-Hill Connect, they have a groups function on Connect, which is a wiki. If you don't use McGraw, but if you don't, you can use Google Docs. Do you guys have Google Doc access for your students? Okay, you can use a Google Docs. Downside to that, it's not gradable on D2L, you know what I mean? So really accessing or pushing, going to somebody who has the power to get that thing tied in somehow. Whether you use it on Connect or you find a way in D2L, you got to get that wiki going on. You really do. Okay? So case studies, I use them before class, I use them during class, I use them after class. You can use this across disciplines. They have case studies that would work. All right? They promote questioning. Research is clear. The student who questions is the one who learns. If your students are not actively questioning you, there's not significant learning going on. Okay? It's active, and the conversation extends beyond the classroom. I also use LearnSmart as a core part of what I do. For those of you, again, McGraw, why? Because this is your content delivery. It releases me from this is the apex, this is the base, this is all the stuff they should have done before they got to me. And I stay there and go, wait a minute, what do you think about that? That's what we're trained for. We're not trained for that other mess. That's their job. So this is a fabulous way to take the learning delivery of content out. And they've got it. I can't speak to all of the disciplines, but can somebody is anybody discipline-wise, are we pretty covered here? Fairly covered. And this is a standalone also. I actually started using LearnSmart before I actually used a McGraw book. So I don't know, but you might want to ask your rep about that. I don't know how that works, but that's how I got started with them. Okay. I have low battery, so I'm going to get cut off soon. I also use concept overview interactives. These are big pictures that give the whole story, and I don't tell them the story. I have the students make it up. What's the story? Do you ever do that in English? Can you do that? Yeah, I see some nods. I do it in science. It's a rockin' way to do something. Don't tell them the story. Put it up there and let them tell you. Who cares if they're wrong? Who cares? They'll learn more that way. They'll learn more. And you can do a whole hour of a story just this way. And concept overview is, again, a McGraw thing that I use for that purpose. Okay, so I'm going to recap the things that I've talked about that are essential pieces to flipping your classroom. For me, anatomy and physiology revealed some sort of pictorial option to get pictures out and up on the screen so we can talk about them. Poll everywhere for me is a must. Unless the clickers have this tactile piece, I don't like it. Because for me and my discipline, identification is important. Case studies. These are across disciplines, y'all. They will work. This is all I do in my classroom, is case study. McGraw actually has a case study app that is for anatomy and physiology, and they're great jump-off points for me. Learn Smart is essential because it's, again, a content delivery piece that the students can do on their own so they can come to me ready for this kind of deep conversation. And the concept overview interactives, telling a story is a constant part of my day. Here's some other things which I know you already know about. Dropbox, SlideShark. Okay, that's not my fave, but can I speak to those of you that are still using PowerPoint? It might be a good place to start. You know, let's get you doing something. And that might be a good place to start. Bayboard is something I'm working on now. Have you seen Bayboard yet? Okay, Bayboard is something you might want to look at. Educreations, oh yes, that's a must. And Haiku Deck, of course, you've just seen. Let me say one other thing to you. I am tracking my students and have been for 1.5 years in my flipped classroom. I'm tracking them for self-efficacy. I'm tracking them for self-efficacy, not just about anatomy and physiology, but overall confidence in learning. I'm tracking them also for content knowledge, and I'm tracking them for within my tests across the scope of Bloom. Let me tell you my results. Across the board, the women show significant gains. I mean, I'm talking about statistically significant gains in confidence. Oh, not only in anatomy, but in learning in general. The boys show significant gains in anatomy, but the learning in general is flat from this approach. I have my ideas why I think that is. Boys are not as collaborative. And I'm being very general. Boys are not as collaborative. I'm also seeing significant gain, well, I said content knowledge for both groups. And, and their self-efficacy. Across Blooms, no difference in low-level learning. No difference. Guess where the difference is? High-level learning. Hugely significant for this way of teaching. Okay? Now let me tell you one more thing. From a straight content knowledge, when I look at my tests, test to test, group to group, one group didn't get flipped, one group did. Okay? Their average was the same. So how come I'm telling you they were better? Because when you go in and statistically calculate effect size for groups, what you see is instead of the range down here, right? First of all, they were ranged closer and stacked up. So I didn't have these super high ones bringing up the average. Does that make sense? So you got to go in, drill into the data, and what we see, to a significance, the effect is there. It's moving those DCB students up. Last piece of knowledge here for you. F's remain the same. Are you shocked? It's pretty hard to get an F from all of us, isn't it? Heck, if you just do the extra credit, you might get an F. Right? So the F's stayed the same. So what do you think? I have a minute for question. Do I have time? Do I have a couple questions? Yes. So did they go from a 94 to a 95? Yes. Here's where it helped, in the confidence. Because let me say to you, an A does not mean they're confident. And you'll see that. This is not to be a McGraw person, but I'm committed to what they enable me to do. And if you look at what they offer you for their Learn Smart, they have a metacognitive piece. And I gather data from that. So before you answer a question, if you use a McGraw product, you have to say, do I know it? Do I think I know it? Do I have no clue? And so what we find is that those students are more confident in their responses. Yes. And what we also find is that the women don't answer, I know it, or I don't have a clue. That's where the guys answer. The women are always answering in the middle going, well, I think I know it, but maybe I don't. Or I don't think I know it, but maybe I do. Okay, that's a problem for a female trying to be successful in a STEM field. And I can't speak to the other fields. I think it's a problem in general. But I think, ladies, isn't that us? Right? This kind of atmosphere encourages, you have to have a trust relationship with your student. If you don't have a trust relationship with your student, this will not work. It will not. They're scared. That first month is hell. I'm just letting you know. If you're doing the right thing, it'll be pulling teeth. It's like when you're breastfeeding and 4 months comes along and you think, oh my gosh, my baby is eating every other hour again. And you think, I must be doing something wrong. Do any of you know what I'm talking about? And in reality, what is it? They're growing. They're growing. And what do you have to do? You have to wait for your body to adjust. And then it's okay. It's the same thing for your students. They will go through panic and pain the first couple weeks. Just be there. And they will get it. They will. Now, I'd like to leave my email address. If any of you have any other questions, or I'm going to be here tomorrow too, or around today, please ask me. I'm no means the expert. I've just tried and been in the trenches. And it's working. I want to encourage you. Anybody else have a quick question? No? Thank you so much for having me.